This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here are some pretty exciting phones. This is the Moto Z, and this is the Moto Z Force. These are both Droid Editions, which means they're the Verizon versions sold in the United States. Currently, Verizon has the exclusive on these phones in the US. Outside of the US, I know many of you are watching from all over the world. Well, you'll probably be able to get these. We've already done an unboxing of these, so you know the stuff that you get in the box and all that sort of thing, but the embargo's over finally, so we're allowed to talk about these in detail and give you our full review after using them for a week. And I can tell you one of the most interesting things, this is the regular Moto Z, 5.2 millimeters. It's crazy thin, and it still has a decent capacity battery inside too. But here's the Moto Z Force. Don't worry, it's not really this big. But the interesting thing about these phones is the modular accessories. Granted, some of you may buy them even if you don't have an interest, but these are accessories done right. This is the JBL stereo speaker system that claps right onto the back of your phone. You don't have to carry around a separate product. They're pretty easy to use. They're held on by magnets, and there's a pogo pin connector, so it's as simple as doing that, but they do tend to stay on. So that's pretty neat. And there's a variety of accessories at launch, some of which we showed you in the unboxing video. We'll go over them now. And there's even more coming. Potentially things like you can even have a rear display. Wow, that's pretty neat, right? Thermal temperature sensor kind of things, humidity sensors. So for folks who are doing vertical market kind of work, it's not just gee whiz consumer fun stuff. And that's what the back of the phone looks like. It's pretty, it's glass, it's got stripes. Now, there are probably going to be a couple of other color options available. Obviously, we have black on black with the kind of gunmetal sides here, but there will be, most likely, you'll be able to get it with gold trim around the edge instead in your choice of black and black. And then there's going to be one with the white face with gold on the back. So a couple of different options, but this is glass. And it looks very pretty if you don't want to use a rear style cover, but it shows fingerprints and picks them up like nothing else. This is not a fingerprint resistant phone, even though it has an oleophobic water resistant coating. But in the box, you do get a style cover. You can buy more of these. They're $20 to $25 depending on which one you pick. But that claps right on there too, clamps right on. Hardly adds any thickness, gets rid of the hump on the back. So, you know, early first looks that complain about the hump on the back, I'm not too bothered because they really do intend that you use it with the style cover right here. And you wouldn't want to just, you know, have the data pins showing all the time, get them schmutzy and all that sort of thing. So there it is, but you could use it naked if you wanted. Anyway, there's a lot more to look at. We're going to check it out now. It might look like you're looking at two of the same thing, but you're not. The Moto Z and the Moto Z Force have identical front faces. They have identical almost everything. 5.5-inch QHD AMOLED displays, really lovely looking. The usual dual-band Wi-Fi, AC, Bluetooth, NFC, 4G, LTE, those usual goodies right there. 5-megapixel front cameras. Everything is the same on this, folks, except for the Z Force, which is the more expensive model by $94 or so, has a bigger battery. 2600 milliamp battery in the regular Moto Z, 3500 milliamp in the Moto Z Force, which is why it's thicker. It is 7 millimeters versus 5.2 millimeters. The Force also has Moto's Shatter Shield, shatterproof display, which is a 5-layer affair that somehow doesn't really degrade image quality any. Both screens look identically nice on it. And the last thing is you get a better camera with the Z Force, 21 megapixel versus 13 megapixel. And you get, both of these have laser autofocus and the usual contrast detect autofocus, but the more expensive one throws in phase detection autofocus too, which is, you know, all the rage and the state of the art if you're looking at digital SLRs and mirrorless cameras. So yeah, it has the better camera, the Z Force. So clearly the Moto Mods are the exciting part here. And here's a collection that we received. We got the projector, we have the JBL speaker, we have the Incipio off-grid battery pack, and of course, just the regular style covers. And again, you get one style cover in the box. There's about 5 different designs of style covers, so if you like red ballistic nylon rather than weathered wood, you can get that too. Don't worry about that. And there will be more. And speaking of more, Moto has talked about other modules that they thought of making but didn't make or third parties might make. And like I said, I mean, wow, a second display on the back. The sky's the limit. And they call this the Moto Mod 1.0 platform. And they say that future Moto Z models will be compatible with these. So if you get next year's Moto Z, you'll still be able to use your mods. They're really standing behind the ecosystem. And given how easy it is to use and almost kind of fun, and if they come up with enough modules, there's going to be something for everybody, something that you want. Well, it's a pretty good idea. And prices, they vary. The projector is the most expensive right now, $300, and that's a 50 lumen projector, so you're going to have to be in a dark room to make use of it. That's not very bright as projectors go. The JBL speakers, $90. That's not bad. You get 1,000 milliamps of extra battery in there. The battery backs, and there'll be stylish ones from Kate Spade and Toomey, as well as the pretty plain white Incipio one we have. And those run anywhere from $60 to $80 or so dollars. So other than the projector, the prices really aren't that bad. To literally size up the competition, we have several models here in the 5.5-inch class. This is Moto's own Moto G4 that we recently reviewed. Actually, it's the G4 Plus. You can tell because it has the fingerprint scanner. Almost identical front face, right? It's hard to tell them apart, but you can see the difference in the screen. Only a 1080p screen here, and a IPS, a little bit more of a yellow cast also. We have the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge here, the zingiest display in this lineup of phones. 5.5 inches, it manages to be the smallest. Boy, Samsung is good at smallification. So if you're trying to figure out how much of a handful the Moto Z is, everything will be in the high-end competition bigger, except for the Galaxy. Galaxy is a little harder to hold on to, though, because it has these curvy sides here, since it's the S7 Edge model. And here's the Nexus 6P, which is noticeably bigger than the Moto Z or the Moto Z Force. So, in terms of horsepower and performance, there's nothing much to see here, folks, because this is the current high-end flagship Snapdragon 820 CPU, Qualcomm CPU. Yes, there's a 821 coming, but it's just a slightly overclocked version, and we haven't seen it in any of the competition yet. Anyway, 2.2 gigahertz, 2 cores running at that speed, 1.6 gigahertz. You get another 2 cores for low power functions. It's fast. It has 4 gigs of RAM. It's available with 32 or 64 gigs of storage for both models, so either way. And typical Motorola, very light customization, almost Nexus-like, very clean. They have a couple of customizations. They have the Moto Voice feature. Several years ago, Moto Voice was pretty cool because it gave you voice control, always on and listening, even if the phone screen was off. But now we've got Google doing the same thing, so I'm not sure we need that so much. But there's a couple of other handy things. Twist your wrist twice to turn the camera on, and once it is on, do it again twice if you want to switch between front and back cameras. So a couple of thoughtful customizations, not a lot going on. It's clean, it's fast, while the Moto G4 and G4 Plus had a little bit of lag running on the Snapdragon 617, is significantly lower end CPU. This is just fast. Now, this is the US edition, the Droid Edition from Verizon, so there's going to be plenty of Verizon bloatware on here, folks. The good thing is not a lot of it runs at startup. It's not so super intrusive, but you're going to get a couple of things, including one that tells you, oh, go to the store and check out what's offered there. Like, oh. One thing I would like to point out is we obviously have on-screen navigation buttons. It's just like with the Moto G4. You just want to touch the fingerprint scanner to get you home. It doesn't work that way. The only thing this will do is unlock the phone, and you can actually use it to lock the phone if you press and hold it while the phone is on. The phone has a nano SIM card slot and a microSD card slot, all in this carrier here, compatible with cards up to 2 terabytes, so that should be enough storage for just about anybody. Aluminum frame right here, and you can see we've got nice beveled metal on the sides here. It's a classy looking phone, and here's that thing that everybody likes to talk about, USB-C port. So there is no headphone jack, but you do get a little dongle adapter in the box, so you can connect your standard headphones to this port right here. So all's not lost, but if you want to charge it while using headphones, well, that's another can of worms right there, and there is no wide connector currently available. Maybe they'll start selling one. That would be kind of nice. The buttons over here, they're high quality, and there's a slight difference in surface texture here. It might be hard to see, but there's a little ridging on the power button versus the volume buttons. Now, they're all the same size and are awfully close together, so you need that tactile feel. And even that, I think, is not enough. I think the power button should be further away from the volume button so that when you're hitting volume down, you don't accidentally turn the phone off. A minor issue. Other than that, they work pretty well. They're not too easy to accidentally hit, but they're kind of just right when you're actually using them. Now the Moto Z Force, that's this one over here. Despite the 5-layer protection over the display, it looks every bit as good as the regular Moto Z. I can't see a difference. But what you will notice is the wallpaper here, and this is about the camera really. Both of these wallpapers are actually photos that I took using the cameras. The Moto Z Force here, you can see how sharp that the flowers look right here. And here, the clock is playfully doubling as the center of my flower, so let's move it. You can see not quite as sharp. That's because there's just ever such a little bit of breeze, going on, and that little bit was enough to slightly miss focus with our 13 megapixel regular Droid Z. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't happen every time. But even with the laser assisted autofocus here, this one is not as quick to capture shots as is the 21 megapixel that adds that phase detection autofocus on the Z Force. So if camera is really important to you, if this is going to be your main camera, I would say you definitely want the Z Force. The difference is noticeable also in the level of details. They both have the same camera software. It's pretty simple and intuitive. You have auto HDR, you have your flash control, you have a timer, shutter button, switching between video and shutter sound control, photo size. Now, here we go. The usual deal is with camera phones that you're going to have the highest resolution if you're going in 16:9 widescreen mode, which is more commonly used for video than for photos. If you go down to 4:3, your resolution is going to drop a little bit. It's super quick to focus, and I'm really too close right now, and it's still somehow managing. I'm going to tap to focus right there and shoot the picture. It's fine. It also shoots 4K video at 30 frames per second, 1080p video at 60 frames per second, and you have your usual panorama mode and all those goodies. And for those of you who enjoy manual control, hit this button right here and we have professional mode. So white balance, ISO, all that sort of EV adjustment, you got it all here. So this is a very nice camera. The DxO Mark also ranked it very highly, and we'll show you some full screen photos so you can see for yourself instead of making you look at this teeny little screen right here, the difference between them in terms of exposure, in terms of image detail, and in terms of accuracy of focusing point. The Z Force is really good, and the regular Moto Z is pretty good. It's not up there with the Samsung Galaxy S7 or obviously even with the Z Force, but it's pretty decent. So how about battery? Well, the battery is obviously sealed inside here. You've seen what happens when you take the style cover off. You see a pretty glass back, and that's that. Obviously, the Moto Z Force, being the thicker and heavier phone, is also going to have the longer battery life because it's thicker and heavier, because it has that 3,500 milliamp battery versus 2,600 milliamp in the regular Moto Z. Now, that's a big difference in battery capacity, and it's noticeable. But that said, the regular Moto Z, it's an efficient phone. I had no problem making it through a full day on a charge, and that means from when I get up until when I go to bed at night, not it's begging for juice by dinner time. That's with moderate use. If you're playing Pokemon Go a whole lot, you're going to have to, invest in one of these. If you're on the go, one of these battery backs. And that does mitigate the issue. Say most of the time, you're not that heavy a user. A day is fine for you, but you're going on a trip, you're going to use the camera, the GPS a lot, and you just occasionally need to augment battery life. You'd rather have the thinner and less expensive phone. Well, that's what these kind of accessories are for, and that certainly makes sense. Now, the Moto Z Force, that one, wow, it lasted about a day and a half with the same usage pattern. And I've been testing these for a week, so it's pretty consistent that you're going to see, well, obviously longer battery life from the phone with the bigger battery. Not a surprise there. So there you have it, Moto Z and Moto Z Force Droid Editions, available July 28th in the United States. Again, $624 for the Z and $720 for the Z Force, which works out to like $26 or $30 a month, depending on which you pick. Anyway, difference in size, difference in camera quality, largely otherwise you're in the battery capacity. Otherwise, you're getting mostly the same phones. They're very good phones. They're something very different from Motorola too, for the Moto line of phones, and they're doing good stuff here. This modular design is the way to do things right, and even if you don't buy into that, they're very slim phones. They're high quality. They have lovely displays. This one even has a shatter-resistant display if you're particularly klutzy and drop it, and it should take a lot of abuse. They're fast, they're state-of-the-art, good cameras on these, particularly on the Moto Z Force. If it's going to be your only camera, which is true for a lot of people these days, and photography is important to you, then you want the Z Force. If you want just decent pictures and pretty decent video too, the regular Z is fine. Either way, you're getting really nice phones. Verizon customers are pretty lucky. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to visit our website for the full written review and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos.